welcome to the first council meeting, Tuesday the 28th of January for 2025. We'll jump straight into it. Attendances, apologies and approved leave of absence. There's none of those. We have the team. We're all here. Councillor Cottrell's on Teams. Declarations of interest. I don't have any declarations of interest at the moment. If somebody realises they have one, let me know as soon as we get going. Public question time. Do we have anybody from the public? Yes, sorry. Yes. Questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. Is there any? None. Confirmation and receiving of the minutes. Minutes, we can do them together. So we'll do those.
The two you can, first two are confirmation, the second one's received.
Okay, so we'll do the first two. So can someone move that we accept those minutes, please? Councillor Kelly, Councillor Dudley Mason seconded it. All those in favour? Thank you. Receiving of the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee on the 11th of December. So move it, please. Thank you, Councillor Vanderleer. Seconder, please. Councillor Kelly. Is there any discussion on that one? Any debate? Being no debate, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Announcements by the President. We do have Mr. Scott Morrison. Sorry, presentations, petitions and memorials. Sorry, my apologies. We do have Mr. Scott Morrissey, as I updated, indicated to Council at our previous meeting, who will be updating us on current situation with some of the antisocial behaviour, etc. in the town. So over to you, Mr. Morrissey.
Okay, I'll just give you a general overview of where we're at, and then I'll have you to take more questions probably than me to sit and talk about stuff you're not interested in. So. There has been a spike in antisocial behaviour in town. There's been a row of funerals, as historically happens. We have a funeral, we have a lot of extended family come to town from as far as Meekatharra, Headland and Geraldton and everywhere in between. And they, right, wrong or otherwise, generally stay in town for extended periods because we've had, I think it's up to 4 or 5 weeks in a row now with funerals, and that just leads to displaced people who still have access to grind, I suppose, against previous family relationships that no one can really understand, and that causes the antisocial behaviour when you mix it with alcohol and drugs. It's not a Carnarvon issue, it's a statewide issue, and we do our best to throw a blanket over there as best we can, and that's certainly what we've done in the last 4 weeks. There was probably a bit more of a blowout on Saturday evening, and Sunday a little bit, but nothing significant, nothing like what we've seen historically in town, but there has been some significant blowouts where I've been told there was 80 people down the bottom of DVD having a stoush. Again, 80 people watching, probably 2 or 3 people having a stoush. That was addressed, the police intervened, and with some good leadership by one of our sergeants, that was they just started to spread. Not that I want to highlight it, but we've had it for quite a while, had a bigger can of pepper spray, which is what we call Mark 9, or some people call it a party pack. It's a big pepper spray. And rather than us, depending on who's working, rocking up to extreme incidents of antisocial behaviour where there's 100 to 200 people in the street throwing stuff at us, throwing stuff at each other, carrying on, we now, time, place and circumstance dependent, we will now enter that space, and we've done it once already where we've release the pepper, and that makes everyone scatter because it's not nice having a face full of pepper. It's not our first port of call, but if our presence doesn't work, they start throwing stuff at us, and it doesn't look like we can resolve it any other way, then that's one of the remedies that we can have that so far has worked. And again, once these things get done rather than the small little peppers that we carry, they still work effectively up close and personal, but the bigger ones, it can affect a lot of people. So the idea would be, not that we want to use it at all, but the idea would be, murder or 1 or 2 and educate thousands. So if we bring it out, we cop a dozen or so people the first time. That gets around town quite quickly, and next time we're out of the car, we put the big pepper spray up, and one of the sergeants will have that, no doubt. That makes them scatter before we've even got to use it. That's the current practice we're sort of using, but it's problematic. We've got a very eager, motivated, but inexperienced crew in the scheme of things at Carnarvon. That hasn't probably changed too much since I've been here. They bat well above their weight. They do extremely well, but ultimately Carnarvon is their first port of call, and the experience they pick up from when they're in their second year compared to when they're in their first year is considerable because they've been exposed, and it's still a little bit of inexperience guiding other extreme inexperience, but that's the hand of cards we've been dealt, and we continue to work well with that, and they do, as I said, an exceptional job. We've got a very eager team. We've teamed over probably quite a bit in the last 12 months, 18 months, and the crew we've got now are as good as we've had since I've been here, and I'd say they're certainly as good as we've had probably in my view. Looking at stats and other stats that I look at and review all the time, they're doing more with less than ever before, and given the demographic of the police station and the rank structure, that's exceptional. You can't get around it. It just is. So they've got lack of experience, less staff for various reasons which we can go into, and they are arresting more people. In the last 2 years, they've arrested more in the last 2 years than they did the previous 3 years. So they're arresting more people. What we call our CAD demand, which is our tasking demand, where people ringing up the police saying, come to my house, someone's broken in, or someone's arguing next door, whatever the case may be. The times we get call outs, that's increasing year on year. I think it's gone up 27% off the top of my head from 2022 to 2024, so it's a significant increase in our demand. Crime is also slowly increasing, property crime and bits and pieces, but nothing that's, there's been a recent spike that again is dependent on who's in town. Again, we get over those things in a week or two while they run riot, and majority of the time that the crime that attracts community attention and comment on social media is all related to volume crime, or what we call property crime, volume crime. And the vast majority of that is committed by juveniles, and it takes quite or can take a while to not so much apprehend these people, but get some evidence on them so we can put them before a court. Stuff that we did when we first got here, where we increased and really had an exceptional year in 2020, back into 2023, 2024. The first part of that was an exceptional year, and probably well out of kilter for the last 20 years for Carnarvon. They're awake up to all of the tricks and bits we've done there. So now they all wear socks on their hands, they all wear balaclavas, or they wear jumpers and hoodies over their heads. They're all CCTV aware. We still have some bits and pieces that we use for identification of clothes and bits and pieces, but that's dwindling. And we often have a series of crime where there'll be a group of what appear to be youths wearing black tracksuit pants and a black hoodie, all wearing balaclavas and bits and pieces. So it's pretty hard to, whilst we have a very comfortable picture of who it is, because we know who's in town at any given time, and we know who's active, and we do welfare check, we do other checks and bits and pieces to see who's home and who's not. We've got to stay within our lane, because we can't start offending on people's liberties. But what we know and what we can prove in court, we'll get to court often worlds apart, and I think I've said that before, that's always the case. In saying that, we continue to have wins in that regard. It just sometimes takes longer than what we might regard, but I can assure council that when we start running on stats, we have task and coordination meetings every morning for the district, and there's several meetings a week for regional WA, and there's several meetings a week for the state. And if we start running on crime in any shape, form or otherwise, I'm answering lots of questions and need to be right across my business, which I pretty well am. So it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's not like we're sitting on our hands. It's just the fact that we still need evidence to arrest people and put them before the court. And again, that's not a Carnarvon-based issue, that's statewide. But our sanction rates, as we call them, so the amount of offenders we process per number of offences that we have, we are generally sitting pretty well above or on the district average, and on or above the state average. That's this year. The previous calendar year to date, the 23-24, we were exceeding everyone by significant margins, because we had an outstanding year. that performance can't be sustained for various reasons, but it's mainly due to the crooks waking up to how the ball was getting inside. Just anecdotally, now the kids who used to sit inside whilst on remand waiting a trial, they now plead guilty at the earliest opportunity they can, and as a result of pleading guilty at the earliest opportunity, they generally get, well, subject to course, but they get released earlier back in the community, and we have a core group of 20 or 30 kids that if they're in town, they are offending. It's just their lifestyle, and that won't change. There's been numerous programs by various government agencies to try and support them and try and steer them and divert them. That's not particularly successful. Those efforts will continue, no doubt. That's the reality of where we're at, and that's not, again, a Carnarvon issue, that's a statewide issue. But juvenile crime is juvenile crime. We keep a blanket on it. It's more in the face of people because it's the businesses, it's the cars, it's the off-road motorbikes, which they have a current absolute penchant for stealing four quad bikes and four-wheel quad bikes, and off-road motorcycles are the current ongoing sort of favourite. And our hands are not so much tied because we don't like pursuing kids on motorcycles who don't have helmets, who've got no idea how to ride, and they want my staff and we, or this shire, or this town, to be on the map for a single incident to happen in Kalgoorlie where someone's pursuing someone and a juvenile dies because they've stolen a car. So it's annoying, it's not good enough, but when you know you're against someone dying because we pursued them where we shouldn't have and we've crossed the line where we're not protected, I'm not interested in crossing that line. So I'm sorry to say that, but that's the reality of life, and we've got to do other means, which we do, to locate these kids and try and get to them and their bikes before they start. If they're on the bikes, they're pretty hard to get. So I think just the last couple of weeks we've had people driving around town in the middle of the night on a quad bike and a motorcycle up around the street. They know there's cameras, they're all covered up, we know who they are, but we can't prove who they are. Those efforts are ongoing, and I've got no doubt that they will come unstuck and we will get them. But it's time, place and circumstance. We've got to use drones and other more covert measures, which I won't detail too much, but we do what we can to see them. But it's a challenge given our other tasking band outside that type of offence has been committed. What else can I tell you off the top before you want to ask me some questions? Liquor restrictions, in my view, continue to work quite well. Sundays and Mondays continue to be the quietest tasking days for the police, and I know that they are certainly the quietest days anecdotally for health and St John Ambulance, which is good because the John Ambulance, as you're aware, is all volunteers, and to have them to continue to have 2 days of semi-respite is no doubt very much appreciated by them. If anyone saw the police around on Australia Day on New Year's Eve, we've introduced a new scanning technology where it's an edge weapon scanning thing. I set up a designated area, it gets signed off by the district superintendent. The district designated area is 3 kilometres squared from a point I designate, which is basically the roundabout down the bottom of outside the surf shop, and that covers the Facine to the Carnarvon Hotel everywhere in between. So anyone in that area who comes in without cause, without suspicion, without any reason at all, you can be stopped, searched with a scan out. It's a soft search, but it's being scanned for metal basically, and that's to stop edge weapons. They use it in Perth, it's been in the precincts in Perth, and we can use it ad hoc as required, and we just use it for those days. No incidents found in Carnarvon. When we first introduced it in Geraldton, they got quite a few hits outside their nightclub the first time that they did it. We've had incidents outside one of our hotels probably a few months ago now where there's locals can carry weapons and knives of some descriptions, machetes and other bits and pieces, so they've obviously gone there with intent to big note themselves or cause grief. The scanning on our part is mainly just to try and educate people to be seen, to be aware it's happening, and then once they're aware it's happening and that we can do it, hopefully the message will get across. They won't bother bringing weapons to sort out the differences when they come to the pub. That's a bit of a proactive measure. Gone through any social behaviour. We're currently exploring some, well, I've just had discussions last week with the Commander who visited town. They're looking at trying to work out some more incentives for Carnarvon to make it more attractive to fill our long-term vacancies. Vacancies across regional WA and policing are very challenging. I know I keep saying the word challenging, but that's the environment we live in. We don't have a policy any longer, or currently, where people in Perth get told to go to the country. They basically want them to apply, and they try to incentivise them to the point where they'll apply off their own back rather than getting pushed. That is proving difficult in regional WA. There's multiple vacancies everywhere. Carnarvon, right, wrong or otherwise, is seen as being on the ocean in a nice spot, because that's what it is. Whilst we've had long-term vacancies since I've been here, and no doubt prior to that, we're up against short-term vacancies of Wiluna, Mullewa, Mount Magnet, Meekatharra, those stations where they've lost 80-90% of their staff. And we've got to backfill and relief and fill them, and they've slowly filled them, and this week we're hoping to have some things on the table to attract some interest from us. Otherwise we continue to basically pick up probationary convicts who are reasonably fresh out of the academy. They're the only ones who seem to put their hand up to come to Carnarvon, and that's good because we can try and mould them and bring them along in our the way we like things done, which is the proper way. Don't need any bad habits from elsewhere, and that's what it is. But that results us in having a junior crew. I mean, we've got, I can't give you facts and figures, but we've got 33 constables positions on frontline constable positions who do the work. Basically 12 of those are always going to be probationers. We've increased that maximum since I've been here from 8 to 12. That's a reality because I've needed to get staff in. I'd rather have staff than no staff. That's not ideal. And the new incentives we've been considering, they haven't signed off on them yet, but they're considering putting them in. We'll hopefully get some more first class, which is 5-year service, or senior constables, which is 9-year service currently. They're trying to get them in here so we can add some experience to the team. In the interim, we are continued to be supported by Operational Regional Shield, which supports various locations throughout regional WA. At the moment, Carnarvon gets more support than any other station in regional WA because of their vacancies, which is good. They come up, they work hard for 2 weeks, but then they leave. It's certainly helpful because it gives us a response capacity, but ultimately they only do short-term investigations. They don't do the protracted investigations, and we don't, because they don't want to smash them, we don't put them on night shift, so that smashes our local crew because their rotation that they need to work a night shift is more often than it should be, and that's problematic itself. But, that's working quite well. That model's been basically, whether it be Regional Shield, which has been the last probably 3 or 4 months, probably 4 months, prior to that, as most of you may be aware, we had support from Geraldton for the same business model for my first 4 or I think I was here about 5 or 6 months, and then we started doing it for the next 14 months from Geraldton. So that's where we're stuck until we can fill some of the vacancies and sort of survive off our own staffing. I think I've spoken enough. Has anyone got any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Yes, councillors, any questions?
Yeah, I might have a question. Are we, just to clarify, are we live? Or,
Yes.
yeah. So maybe, I don't know if there's any sensitivities to this individual or specific case with the local lady that was, going by her statements in the media, that was targeted by a vehicle. And from what I understand, there hasn't been any charges or anything. So in the circumstances, I believe there were some children who stole a vehicle, did some ram raids maybe, allegedly tried to injure her, and then were caught down towards Geraldton.
Yep, that's correct.
So the community, and that, to me, that's a big line that's been crossed in our community in terms of like deliberate violence in a very heavy-handed manner to a member of the public, and the community's quite worried about that, I believe. So in terms of your processes, are there any, is that sort of done and dusted because of insufficient evidence, or that the children or people in question being pressed in terms of admitting to what they did, or?
The suspected individuals have certainly been spoken to and asked those questions. They've been interviewed. I don't, from memory off the top of my head, think they did interview because that's their right. I know that matter, in that particular aspect of that crime series, is still under investigation by the Carnarvon Detectives Office. It's still progressing, and it's subject to bits and pieces which I can't get into, but they need to talk to some other people and bring some other people around, and
So it's ongoing.
It's ongoing. I won't go into it, but they need to leverage off a few things that need to fall into place to try and establish some identity and movements. And that was, I agree, a very shocking incident and not very Carnarvon-like. But the 4 individuals, and I won't go into the depths of what I know, but the 4 individuals involved on their side, I doubt there was going to be any offending per se to her person. If I was her, I've got no doubt what I would have been in my mind, and I would have been very uncomfortable for very good reason. I'd suggest, and I'm certainly not defending the kids because they just shouldn't be in a stolen motor car, they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, they shouldn't have done what they've done. But I'd say they would have done it as more of a entertainment, fun exercise rather than a intentional, we're going to terrorise this lady and physically assault her in some shape, form or otherwise. Her perception would have been 100% opposite to what the kids' possible intent was, and I'm not sticking up for the kids or saying what their intent was, but we deal with these kids over and over, and that would be very far afield from their standard behaviours.
That's the concern from the community.
Yeah.
Is there
It's a
another
progression.
notch? Is there another notch in progression?
There's
So-
one of the kids who's back in our custody again last night. We discussed these kids at length in that relation to their offending behaviours and any concerns we have. One of them has some other behaviours that we do find a little concerning. He's very young. He's very wayward. He's got no mother. I won't go into that, but he passes around from family member to family member. It's problematic for police because we were responsible for the death of his mother in Geraldton. You can probably all work out which one that was. Well publicised in a recent coroner's inquiry. He floats between Karratha. I think he might even go to Broome now again, Mullawa and Geraldton. He spends probably more time than most in Carnarvon. He has shown some issues that concern us, and we're certainly sharing those with the other agencies that need to be informed. And I can tell you every time his name comes up, I inform my district superintendent, who has a very close relationship with his counterpart in communities, and this person is on a heightened watch, you could say. So, not saying he's going to go down the wrong path, but there's just a couple of things that sort of tweak our interest in relation to offending behaviour. But even at that time, his capacity to do anything at the moment is probably not there yet, but it might be different in a couple of years' time.
Any other questions, councillors?
Just through the chair, is there anything that we can do to help with the incentives to come and live in Carnarvon? Trying to, I know a couple of other places I've worked, we've tried to sort of find ways that we can work together better or encourage more camaraderie, how to try and encourage Carnarvon to be a place to live.
Not that I can think off the top of the head, and if I would, I'd certainly ask yourself or the Shire President in the meetings that we have, regular meetings we have. But I know that Shire was considering some housing because we've got more vacancies than we have houses. If this, I'm not sure how successful this the intended incentivising attraction package may well be, but if it works, then we'll be in a far better place if we fill all our vacancies for our housing, but then we're still going to be left with, I think it's maybe 5 or 6 vacancies off the top of my head. That would help having housing available, attractive housing available. Housing is an issue in town. But as far as the people that come here, and that's why we're getting other young people, the people that come here actually probably 2 years ago, the crew wasn't particularly happy. It was I won't go into the ins and outs, but they weren't a happy crew. They just wanted to do their time and get out. They wanted to go to work and go home. Didn't want to answer the phone after hours. There's other various reasons, personalities, lots of things involved. The current crew that we have, far more energetic, far more easygoing, far more engaging. There's a lot more social life. They're enjoying it, and they've spread that news to their friends in Perth, and that's why we get quite a bit of interest to people who, with the regional shield operations, we use as a try before you buy. So they come up for 2 weeks ago, no, it's not too bad. We picked up several officers doing that. We've got a couple in the pipe that are hopefully coming up that are connected to some of the staff we have here. And the intent is if they get up here and like it, think they can sell it to their boyfriend, girlfriend, or they think they can sell it to themselves, whatever the case may be, then we'll secure their services on a more permanent basis. So the people that like it, Carnarvon's got a lot to offer. We've done police media have come up, done a fairly decent video, with all their kit and technology to highlight what Carnarvon's got on offer. And we certainly showed them the good bits. We didn't show them the bad bits. Not find that out soon enough, but certainly the camping, fishing, blowholes, Nalu, where you are on the coast, that was highlighted. The weather, the scene, and most of the housing we've got is pretty decent. That's all been highlighted, and it's not a Carnarvon-centric issue. It's just it's a state of play for the WA Police because we are going through a massive recruiting drive. There are vacancies in Perth. They backfill numbers in Perth by recalling staff on their weekly leave. Historically, and I've been a regional WA for 30 odd years, historically you go either to the goldfields or come north for what we call a 43-hour week, which is an additional shift per fortnight. So you get 3 days, I get 3 days off at 4, 9 on 4. That extra day is not on overtime rates, but it's not on normal rates, it's in between, but it's extra money you've got coming in, and that made it worth coming for an extra, say, 10, 15 grand a year, whatever it was. That was enough to get people across the line. Now they can make $20,000 extra in Perth by staying in Perth with their family, friends in their own house without moving their environment. And they can make that money out there without any question, but there's no reason for them to come. And that has really taken the legs out of regional WA, particularly the northwest. And I think I probably said this environment don't quote me on the exact numbers, but when I was in Kununurra as a young constable, there's 120 something people put in for one vacancy. Kununurra was top of the pops. Everyone would go there, and it was great. And it was great. I loved it. Now Kununurra regularly goes weeks and weeks without application. That's just the scene for Kununurra itself just ended, but the interest of people going to regional WA is descended. That's just a sign of workforce, I think. Just probably, I think
It's across the board in a lot of industries.
Yeah, that's just
in all industries, I suspect. Unfortunately, so
Got a couple of questions. So the house, how many? You've got capacity in the housing at the moment to recruit a number of people, but you fall short by 5 if you had a full contingent. Is that right?
off the top of my head, yeah, I think it's 5 or 6, and it depends because we try and attract couples,
Yeah.
and
So how much capacity in the housing is there now then? Is it-
I think there's, I can't get into the numbers, but I think we've got over half a dozen houses available to us. If we get a couple, and there's probably off the top of my head 5 or 6 couples, and they save us a lot of housing because it's 2 for 1. My wife's a police officer; she saves us 2 for 1. So if we get more couples, that's great. If we don't get couples, or if we have all the couples decide to leave and we can't get any couples, then Carnarvon's going to be well and truly behind the 8 ball.
And the second one, with the crime associated with the funerals, are they 2 separate? Does that tend to be more alcohol, violence, like family on family sort of crime?
Yep.
But it doesn't impact, say, the property stuff, which the community
No.
knows the most.
The antisocial behaviour with the funerals is very much different to the crime, but generally the crime or the property volume crime type issues are driven by local kids who are no doubt helped by people who come to town who've got the same sort of interests, but the majority of that market is driven by local kids. The antisocial behaviour involves locals without doubt, but it's flared by parties from outside often, and it's generally, certainly on the excessive alcohol days, which is night before the funeral, night of the funeral, and half the time the next day after that, again, because it's still playing up on the alcohol. So they're generally separate issues.
Just on the stealing of quads and off-road bikes, it would seem that the kids stealing the bikes, but to me they're walking a hell of a long distance to steal something. Is there another element?
We're comfortable there's another element involved, and we're looking into that. The other week there was several bikes stolen from Hobart. They did walk there. So certainly we would suggest that there's adult or senior juvenile involvement with a car and trailer to transport these bikes. Again, these bikes aren't used in relation to any other crime. They're not used to go and do anything. They're used for personal entertainment of their own. Drive around town at 3 o'clock in the morning because that's fun.
When their followers.
Or doing bits and pieces, or waiting for the police trying to get them to come out and engage in a pursuit, or just driving around the back blocks out not really hurting anyone. But the problem is it's not their property. They are hurting people because they're stealing stuff that's not theirs, and ultimately they'll probably come to grief because they don't know how to ride home. So but we are looking into it. I won't go into it again too much, but that's certainly a part of our investigative outlook.
I mean, you mentioned previously the senior counterparts, strong connection with the higher ups in the community. So these kids, you're talking about 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that are committing these crimes, even the ones that got caught in motor children. They're obviously not getting sued, or it's not being looked after. So where's DCP in all this? Where do they defrauding kick in, or just keep recycling with you said kid that gets passed from family member to family member? I mean, why are they not being wrapped up and taken off and, put into a proper environment?
The majority of these kids, and again, I won't talk for communities talk for communities, but a lot of these kids I would comfortably say come from extremely dysfunctional families where there's no boundaries, no discipline, no family environment where they don't want to be at home. When we come across juveniles most days of the week, and it's not like it used to be, we've certainly calmed them down. We're wandering years at night. It still happens, but it used to happen every night we got to town. They're wandering in a large number. It doesn't happen anymore, but when we come across people that we've got concerns about, we do a referral. Referral goes in, that's a DCP or committee's referral, goes to Perth. I don't want to throw communities under a bus, but what I'd suggest is a kid at risk doesn't necessarily meet the criteria for Department of Communities child at risk. I've had this discussion with communities long and hard, and I'll continue to have that discussion because they have my opinion and they have theirs. It's good not to them. But sadly, in my respect, it's community's job, and they write their own policies and rules and regulations, and they live by them. So that's the community's issue. We just highlight our concerns, and we continue to liaise and have a good relationship with them. But they, talking in general terms, I'd say they're in the same boat as us. They probably lack the resources, and they're overwhelmed with a level of dysfunction. And if they responded to every flare that I threw in the air, or not myself, but my staff threw up as a child at risk, they would do less and less and less with what they've got. So they're already overrun, and that's why they probably have a very strong triage or culling sort of criteria as to what they engage with, because they've only got a finite resource. That's the reality of government services and the scheme of things. But it's a discussion that certainly myself and the district command team continue to have. We don't necessarily make too much bearing in that regard, but we highlight, as I said, one of these children before, one or two of them we sort of highlight as best we can. There's other than the T120 program and other bits and pieces that are sponsored by for communities that pay for the program to happen. It's run by Nagala. A a lot of those kids that are on that program are continuing to come to our notice. We have regular meetings with Magala and the T120 crew, and again, they do their best they can, but these kids, it's hard to divert kids when you engage, even if you engage them for 1 hour a day, and that'd be a lot more than I'd suggest probably happening, because that leaves 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day. So there's 23 hours a day where they're still not supervised, still left to their own devices in the scheme of things, and that's where you're going to be up against that battle. So to actually attain meaningful long-term change, I'm not sure how that's going to occur, so but we could probably suggest the government.
Might suggest the government needs to resource it a little bit better.
It's a lot for me
I'm
to
not
pass
going
point on.
to you, I'm fully aware that this has been televised, but I don't believe that the resources that are required to make this change are in place. And I can't see that changing for some time unless the government is willing to put a lot more resources into place. So it's,
From where I sit, extra government resources are always welcome. I would note to council that since I've been here, I think the communities have increased a couple of FTE without quoting them, and I don't want to talk to the communities, they can talk for themselves. But certainly since we've been here, WA Police you've got myself as a reasonably senior member on board, and an extra 4 FTE or 4 positions.
Yep.
Not that we filled them, because we haven't, I don't want to lie, but the police department still afforded those staff to Carnarvon, so, which is better than going backwards.
so just want to go back, because I'm getting a lot of negative feedback over the liquor restrictions, and a lot of people are saying no, they're not working, although the numbers on the Monday, Sundays tell us say otherwise. Is there in fact, I continually get told there's grog being carted into town, is there any evidence of that actually happening?
There's minimal evidence of that occurring. It does come third hand often where it comes across more. Like 6 cartons, so that's not really, if they were trading, that's not going to change anything in Carnarvon either way. There's been some, that matter's ongoing, there's some more stuff out of the plantations between a certain ethnicity who are trading between themselves, and that's caused some interest, but doesn't impact on the wider community of Carnarvon, it just impacts on themselves. That's something we're looking into, so that's probably the last couple of months that that's come to light, and those investigations are ongoing. But again, they're selling within a small group of people. They don't sell widely to the Aboriginal people. They certainly don't sell to the wider Carnarvon community. So there's no evidence to say it's happening. We call it sly grogging as a colloquial term. There's not a lot of evidence to suggest that at all. And the times that it's been brought to my knowledge or brought to my attention, it's been extremely weak evidence and weak rumour, but we're still only talking about minor numbers. There's no truckloads or trailer loads of alcohol coming into town that's fueling it. It's if it is occurring, I'd suggest it's probably not. It's 3 or 4 cartons. People can go and borrow 3 or 4 cartons from their neighbour if they want in the scheme of things. No, we're talking about the broader community versus the community that caused us to have liquor restrictions. But that impact of that amount of availability of alcohol, even if it's up to 10 cartons, is not going to change anything in the scheme of things.
You think, I don't know how to be managed though, but just in quest, having liquor restrictions on the volumes, but maybe tightening them a little bit more and then opening 7 days a week to relieve the angst there is in town, where I get a lot of people telling me we get a lot of visitors coming to town and they want to stay the night but they can't go and get a 6-pack for the old fella and a bottle of wine for the wife, if it's possible to restrict, but open it every day, but restrict the volumes to a level that might be more comfortable. I know it's probably problematic, but the two major things I get told is you've taken the choice for us away. You've restricted people visiting our town to get their grog, and the perception that there's a lot of grog coming in from out of town.
Yeah. Liquor restrictions are set by certainly not WA Police, and I think certainly no doubt WA Police through the Commissioner encouraged that review. And certainly there was conversations that we were probably all privy to with the government before they implemented their, before the racing, gaming, liquor and whatever they're also called, implemented those restrictions. They have since been implemented more broadly across regional WA, so I wouldn't think that the government's looking to racing, gaming, liquor specifically, are looking to change those outlooks. I don't know, I don't work for them, I don't have conversations with them. I have an update where they ask my opinions on, and it's all work-related, defensible evidence positions on liquor, and my position hasn't changed. I know, because I do know a lot of people in the community, that that's not the most popular thing that's ever occurred. Comment over it. It's not fair to any person. I said agree it's a infringement on some people's ability, which is disappointing. But if I balance them up personally, the outcomes versus the negatives, the pros and cons, then I'd be in favour personally of they staying. But I don't have a personal vote. I just provide evidence to questions that are put to me by government or by the minister or by racing, gaming, liquor.
Anybody else?
Just on that liquor thing, the last conversations I had, and again I'm not telling you which way government policy is going, but there's certainly from a WA Police perspective greater potential to have a bigger impact using the restrictions and the TAM system and increasing the register for people who can't access alcohol, and that's, I don't know specifically, but I've got no doubt that's on conversations at the senior government level and might be prompted by the current election or the about to be election that we're going to have, how that pans out. But there was early days, for us to put someone on the banned drinking register, they've got to commit an offence. The local community wake up to that very quickly, and we, so when you go somewhere and they're all drunk and they're liquor infected, we arrest not too many people. If they do, they go on the banned drinker registers. But there's not a lot of people on the register compared to where I think there should be. There should be hundreds on it. There's not hundreds. There's probably lucky to be a dozen. But I haven't checked recently, so I don't know. But it's not a great number.
What's that?
Because people don't report offences. If they don't report offences, they don't commit an offence, and therefore we can't put them on the banned drinkers register in that scenario. If they made it, and I know it's certainly been discussed because I've certainly raised it, and as has probably every other senior person in regional WA, and I'm not talking for racing, gaming, liquor because I'll make their own decisions and judgments, but if the net was cast wider to the point, we go to lots of disturbances now, we issue a police order, a lot of family violence issues, whether it's alcohol involved. The locals play the system, they just say, I don't want him arrested, I don't want this and the other, I just want him to go. A police order is like a restraint order, it's off you go, see clearly you can't come back within 72 hours. We go back and do checks, but generally they're back within 48 hours and they breach them regularly, but that's not the offence for us to get them on the banned drinker register. Early days of those discussions when it was all talked about coming in, they were talking about us having the ability to go to a family violence issue, and whilst issuing a police order or something similar, we could also put them on the banned drinkers register because there was evidence that there was some form of violence, antisocial behaviour, whatever it is, alcohol's involved, bang, which is quite I'm sure the concern would be it could be abused pretty regularly by police, because it probably could be. Because there's not a lot of tests in relation to you're clearly affected by alcohol, because we've got limitations on when we can put someone on a breathalyzer and get some legal sort of status behind that. But ultimately, I think it'd be well used, and that would increase the banned drinkers register to a meaningful number, where it would certainly impact on lots of things around town. And I know the government's aware of that, and that's not for me to discuss, but just to make council aware that I'd suggest they're probably looking at expansive options rather than reduction options as government would be. And again, I don't want to talk for them because I'm not privy to it, but that would be my personal sort of outlook as to where they're headed.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor?
I'd just like to make a closing comment for Mr. Chairman. Inspector Morrissey, thanks very much. I think you and your office do an outstanding job under difficult circumstances. You're putting band-aids on bullet wounds, in my opinion. You know, and it's nothing to do with your job, it's just how it is. This is a national issue. It's not Carnarvon, as you've mentioned numerous times today. It's right across Australia, whether it's Alice Springs or Cairns or anywhere else. It's right across Australia. It comes from government. It comes from the lack of intestinal fortitude of politicians. They're not going to do a damn thing about addressing real issues, because they're frightened of all the history of stolen generations and all that sort of stuff. Instead of looking at it in today's light, in the broad daylight of today, where you're looking at disadvantaged children that are neglected, that are running the streets of all regional areas, and the regional areas all, as you've mentioned today, or has been alluded to today, are all lacking from government resources, DCP, whatever you want to call them, education. It's a law for children to go to school, but you can walk around here at any time, as you know, as a police officer, there'll be a dozen kids wandering around that should be at school that aren't and never go to school. What chance have those children got? Unless the politicians get off their backside and just say, these kids are neglected, surely they have some rights, surely they have some future. Because you've mentioned also dysfunctional families at their homes. Well, this has come about because of poor housing. I read the Australian avidly, and this weekend one because of Australia Day. There's some wonderful articles in there by people like Geoffrey Blaney and that are just putting it in broad daylight instead of jumping at the shadows, just saying this is where it's at. There are neglected people here. We have a generationally dysfunctional group, and a very small group, that needs support. And they need good housing, they need to be supported in that housing. When I say support, kept it clean, kept it clean, make sure the kids are dressed, make sure the kids go to school, because otherwise those kids are going to be exactly the same parents, going to go down the line, the police are going to be running around wondering what the hell to do next, the community's going to be wondering what the hell the police are going to do. There's nothing between the police and the courts and jail. Nothing that government provides. You know, just smoke and mirrors. And I'm not sorry about the epistle, but the gospel, but I just get frustrated because I've been around so bloody long. I've just seen it go down from the Dog Act, which you sort of alluding to. You didn't call it the Dog Act, but back in the old days in the goldfields, on second Thursdays and payday, your photo went up on the backboard of the bar of the Right House in Leonora, or the commercial, and it said, "You won't serve this bloke grog today." And it was just specific because that was payday. He had to go home and give the cheque to his wife, or the cash, because they got paid in cash most of them those days, give it to their wife. They weren't allowed to go into the pub. I mean, that was 50 years ago. Today we can't even just do it for people who are known, not giving their money to the wife, but going home and bashing their wife up because they're full of drop. It's just, there's no intestinal fortitude. So I think we all agree with what I'm saying, but I just get frustrated that you people are doing your very best, the community's right behind you. We appreciate everything you do for us, but I just get so frustrated when someone just won't look at it and say, this generational dysfunction is going to go on and on and on until we do something. And just in closing, Mr. Chairman, I sat in the Perth airport yesterday because the plane the day before got cancelled, I did today, and I saw a young person, lady, with a gorgeous little toddler. Being a sheep man, I'd say it would be a hoggett, you know, between 1 and 2 years old. And this kid came up and put his thing and flirted with the passengers, including myself, you know, his mother was sitting down. I saw her wang that kid over the head 6 times in an hour and a half. And my wife was with me, and after the second or third time I saw her, I said, "You watch this, just boom, don't dong that kid again." And she did. And I'm just thinking, it's not that mother's fault. She's frustrated, she's tied up, the kid spilled some dry beaner or something on her. They she gave her the wang and told her to, well, in the terminal. And you think, this very representation of this very small group that we are neglecting as a society, and it's government's bloody fault. And it's because none of them have got the balls to do anything about it. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dudley, and I think that the highlight of all of that is something that I think we all know.
Yep.
This is multi-generational, so it's not something we're going to fix overnight, but it's going to take strength from both levels of government in our great country to make change, and that's what's required, and these guys will keep doing a great job. But, look, thanks very much, Scotty, for your time and effort coming in this morning. Tell the team we're right behind you, and we'll carry on. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Have a good 2025.
Yeah, we will. I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. Councillors, we're moving right along immediately with our fast council meeting is not going to be so fast. Item 7.1, governance, the actions performed under delegated authority for the months of November and December 2024. I'm a mover, Councillor Farina. Thank you. A seconder, please. Councillor Maslin. Councillor Burke-Maslin. Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, is there any debate on this item or discussion or questions? That being the case, it's adopted unanimously, Mrs. Hill. Thank you. That is 8-0. Mrs. Hill, thank you. Item 7.1.2, local government ordinary election conduct and vote. I'll move it, please. And this is by absolute majority, councillors. Councillor Kelly has moved that. And a seconder, please. Councillor Vanderloo. Councillors, is there any debate, questions, discussion on this item? Silence is gone. So councillors, you'll all be restanding, I take it? There being no debate or discussion, councillors, I declare that unanimous. The numbers is 8-0. Thank you. Item 7.3.1, the annual report for the year ending 30th of June 2024 and the electors meeting. I will move it, please. Councillor Brown. Councillor Kelly has seconded. Once again, councillors, is there any debate, questions, comments? Being no debate, questions or comments, I will thank the Shire staff for their efforts in putting this together during a little bit turbulent times at times, and I think they've done a wonderful job. And yes, we are a little bit late, but I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. So with that, there being no debate, that's adopted 8-0. Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Item 7.1.4, status of council decisions. Move it, please.
Just for no reason.
Councillor Vanderwerf and Councillor Dudley Maslin. Councillors, do we have any comments, questions?
I think it's for noting.
Notes, yes.
I'll speak for the motion and just say it's a welcome addition to the schedules. Pleased to see that in there. It's easy to follow, track through, and I think it's going to pay dividends into the future.
Thank you for those words. That's absolutely 100% accurate. I think it's a great initiative by the CEO. Something I've never ever seen before, but I think it's excellent. And is there any further comments? Well, you didn't really open the debate, so there being no debate, I'll declare that adopted 8-0. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.2.1, accounts paid under delegation for December 2024. Mover, please. Councillor Farina. A seconder, please. Councillor Kelly. Councillors, is there any debate, discussion, comments, questions? There being none, that is now adopted unanimously, 8-0. Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Item 7.2.2, monthly financial report for December 2024. Mrs. Dexter, can we discuss Rex at the end of this, please? There's an announcement here. Thank you. Is there any? Sorry, Mover?
No.
Councillor Kelly? Councillor Skender? Seconded. Councillors, is there any debate, discussion, comments? Being no debate, discussion or comments, that's adopted 8-0. Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Item 7.2.3, budget adjustments for January 2025. Councillor, another mover, please. Councillor Skender and a seconder, Councillor Kelly. Councillors, is there any debate, discussion? There being no debate or discussion, that's adopted 8-0. Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Right, back to the agenda. Development community services, there are nil items. Infrastructure services, there are nil items. Are there any applications for leave of absence?
Yes,
Councillor?
for next month's meeting, please, February.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there a second for that? Councillor Vanderler?
Thank you.
Councillors, is there any debate or are we adopting that position? There being no debate, that's adopted 8-0. Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Motions of which previous notice has been given, there are nil. Questions from the members without notice, there is nil. Urgent business approved by the presiding member or by decision of council. Got any matters for which will be closed to no? Next date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 25th of February. And with that, councillors, meeting is closed.